Judas Priest finally stopped teasing their fans and announced the 2026 Faithkeepers run. And let's be honest here, it's definitely not something most Judas Priest fans expected from the band today. So yeah guys, just days after Judas Priest were announced as one of the main headliners for the 2026 Wacken Open Air in Germany, which, by the way, in my opinion, this last set of announcements simply saved the holy ground of metal for next year, as before that they were simply, just a regular cool festival. But after announcing Judas Priest with their Faithkeepers run, Arch Enemy with their renewed lineup, Paradise Lost and gazillion other bands, well, they simply turned into the festival to go to in Europe next year. But that's a topic for a different conversation.
Yes, that's true.
But anyways, just days after that announcement, Judas Priest finally did something which I kinda hinted on in the latest metal digests of ours, and announced the 2026 European tour, which will commence on July 25th at Bobfest in Germany, go through Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Spain, and end on August 23rd, once again in Germany.
It's great, actually. It's the best job in the world.
And by the way, as of right now, we get 10 solo dates and 2 festival appearances in Europe next year. And in all honesty, I don't know whether more dates will be added at some point in the future, but I kind of want to point out that the Judas Priest social media post actually, it looks like, has run dates for the Halle Germany concert. So in case if you're going to plan the trip, just make sure to visit judaspriest.com and check out the real dates, the ones that they will perform at for sure. But anyways, as I said already, as of right now we only get around 12 dates for 2026 in Europe. And here's the thing, even if that's it, even if Judas Priest does not announce any more dates for next year, this announcement is already a pretty big surprise to many Judas Priest fans. And not only because Judas Priest continue taking on the road some incredible bands, and this year it looks like they will tour together with Airbourne and Dirkschneider, at least for a couple of dates, which in my opinion is simply an incredible ability to see all those 3 bands in one night, but also because many fans kind of expected Judas Priest to somewhat slow down after 2 years of Relentless touring. Relentless touring at the 54th year of existence of this band. As just a reminder, after Judas Priest dropped their latest studio album Invincible Shield, they went on the Invincible Shield tour, which by itself was a pretty big run, comparable to that of the 1980s. And pretty much right after that, they went on a massive tour with Alice Cooper in support of Painkiller and Invincible Shield, which also by itself was a very demanding run. And even more, several months ago in one of the interviews, Ian Hill said that the band will take 2026 to record the follow-up to their latest studio album Invincible Shield, and did confirm that the band has not only been putting ideas together, but has already booked the time to, mess around in the studio in 2026. And many people actually took it as a sign that Judas Priest will take a year off to prepare for the release of their next studio record. And just to be clear, this is most likely still going to happen. I mean, Judas Priest are still going to go into the studio this year. But in addition to that, Metal Gods decided to not show any sign of slowing down whatsoever and continue touring non-stop. Even if at this stage in their career, well, they definitely don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. And so the biggest question which many Judas Priest fans have today is what the flip this Faithkeepers tour will bring to the Judas Priest community in Europe. And here's where it becomes interesting. As in the first look, the obvious answer to that question would be that it would be a tour to celebrate the legendary Defenders of the Faith album, which, for the record, for those who don't know, is my absolute favorite Judas Priest album, and the album which gave this series of videos about Judas Priest on the show its title. And in honesty, well, it definitely does look like a possibility, and especially after a very warm welcome of Free Will Burning by many fans on the latest Shield of Pain run. And the whole fact that back in 2024, Defenders of the Faith was not really celebrated properly by the band, and the fans have been demanding for the songs from this album to be played live more oftenly by the band for decades. Because no matter what anyone says, well, it is still one of the most beloved Judas Priest records. But the interesting thing is that the Blabbermouth article for this news actually mentions that this tour will be a continuation of the celebration of the band's latest studio album, Invincible Shield. And just to be clear here, the Shield of Pain tour together with Alice Cooper, which the band concluded in 2025, was actually considered by Judas Priest a continuation of the celebration of Invincible Shield, which kicked off last year. And if that is the case, well, this will be like a third chapter of the Invincible Shield tour, this time concentrating on a different album in addition to Invincible Shield, just like the Shield of Pain tour concentrated on Painkiller this year. But at the same time, I have to be honest with you, this is literally the only article I read this in, and I personally have no information regarding this whatsoever. And even more in all, I'm still looking at the artwork for the upcoming 2026 Judas Priest tour. Well, it doesn't really give out any hints to the Invincible Shield album, like at all. Which makes me think that this album will not actually be in support of Invincible Shield, but rather celebrate a slightly different era of Judas Priest. The latest Shield of Pain tour was a rather unique tour in the band's career, as it was the first run in roughly 250,000 years that did not feature any songs from the 1970s, well, except for Hellbent for Leather, because, you know, Judas Priest simply have to play the song live every night. And by the way, an interesting fact, next episode on our Defenders of the Faith series will actually be dedicated to the theatrics around that song, known to pretty much every Judas Priest fan. So if you're still not subscribed to this channel, especially if you're a Judas Priest fan, I would really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing right now, because, well, there are quite a lot of interesting videos about Judas Priest that I'm releasing on this channel.
To all the metal pilgrims out there, horns up to everybody, stay hard, stay heavy, stay metal.
But going back to the tour itself, the craziest thing is that the Shield of Pain tour setlist happened right after the announcement that after more than 40 years of fighting for the rights for their first two albums, Judas Priest Music have finally obtained the rights for Rock'n'Rolla and Sad Wings of Destiny. And they even remixed and reissued Rock'n'Rolla that same year, which showed this album in a completely different light to many Judas Priest fans, and did not promote it or celebrate it in any way, like at all. And we all know that, although many fans are somewhat indifferent to Rock'n'Rolla, Sad Wings of Destiny holds a very special place in many Judas Priest fans' hearts. And next year, in 2026, Sad Wings of Destiny will actually be celebrating its 50th anniversary. And for the very first time since 1977, Judas Priest actually hold the rights to that album, which I am more than sure they will not miss a chance to celebrate in a proper manner. Which, altogether, kind of makes me think that the FAITHKEEPERS Tour will not only be in celebration of Defenders of the Faith, but it will also heavily be concentrated on the first two albums Judas Priest released in the early 70s. As first of all, given the whole fact that Judas Priest had a very diverse career throughout the years, many Judas Priest fans actually consider the 1970s to be the golden years of that band, which culminated in the legendary Unleashed in the East. And the truth is that Judas Priest simply have to celebrate that era at some point in their career. And secondly, well, the latest Shield of Pain tour was possibly one of the heaviest tours, setlist-wise, that this band had in a very long time. And just to be clear, it was simply incredible, and it was a gift to all the die-hard Judas Priest fans. But at the same time, if the band wants to celebrate their early days and capitalize on the whole fact that they purchased the rights to their first two albums, there would simply be no better time to do that than a year before the release of their next studio album. And especially since many fans have been kind of asking the band to do so for a rather long time. And the last but definitely not the least, the artwork for the upcoming FAITHKEEPERS run includes the Judas Priest cross and wings, which kind of gives out this Sad Wings of Destiny vibe. And we all know that the Judas Priest cross first appeared on that album artwork, and its second appearance was actually on the Defenders of the Faith record. So who knows, maybe it might even be a setlist heavily concentrating on the first 10 years of this band. But I guess we will find out very, very soon. But anyways, what are you personally expecting from the Faithkeepers run, and are you planning to see Judas Priest live next year? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this short and spontaneous video, but the one that I was very happy to produce, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!